You know, in my time doing this, it's funny how my perception has changed from what we are told is the truth to what actually is. You've got to appreciate that some of the information I get sent on a daily basis makes my toes curl, my teeth itch, and my eyes pop out on stalks. It really is unbelievable. And I have to make a determination as to what goes out and what doesn't. Now, one of the things that keeps coming up again and again, and there's a clip I want to play where Rupert Lowe ties Parliament's shorts up in a knot and sticks them over their head, is our rights. What right do we have to a peaceful life? What right do we have to going to work? What right do we have to looking after our families? What right do we have to just go about our business? And how do those rights compare to the rights of others that come into this country? One of the biggest problems is the European Convention of Human Rights, or moreover, how that is being looked at and handled by those in positions of authority. And we'll readdress that shortly. But for the time being, I want to bring this up on the screen, and you can see it here. This is a tweet from Basil the Great. Rupert Lowe asks, what about the human rights of the British people not to be arred, stabbed, or killed by visitors who should never have been in our country to begin with? Other MPs are outraged and heckle him. What the fuck's going on? Exactly. Now, just for clarity, let's have a listen to this, shall we?
We hear so much of the human rights for foreign paedophiles, sex pests and murderers.
Is not giving way. Members may disagree with what he's saying, but we will conduct this in an orderly way.
What about the human rights of the British people? The right not to be raped, stabbed and killed by foreigners who should never have been in our country to begin with. Please spare me the continued moral outrage.
Mr. Lowe, sorry.
One of the things that was said in that particular piece, you could see him on his rocking horse, really laying it out, what's going on and who's responsible. I even saw a video last night of a horrific incident, and thankfully an Englishman that was walking along intervened and sorted it out. But you must have heard it. Absolute nonsense, somebody was heard to say in the background. Absolute nonsense. And you could see the heckling, you could hear the talking, and you could hear the barracking. Meanwhile, he's saying something very serious that affects all of us. Now, I had this discussion with somebody earlier on, and when somebody comes to this country, there's certain things that I want to know about them. It's not a very extensive list. It's just a small list with straightforward questions, which will tell me whether that person is conducive with living here. And if they're not, then they need to go. They shouldn't be here. And if after the fact that they've come here, they've done whatever they've done, they should be returned, gone, out. That's the whole thing to do with it. And what's getting really tiresome is people that talk about getting rid of people that mean us harm. This suddenly becomes elevated to something else, like everybody, 100,000 people who have joined the movement being called an ethno-nationalist. It's disgusting, absolutely disgusting. I would expect better from the left. You know, at the end of the day, you can either play party politics or a game of my one's bigger than your one, or you can look at what's best for the country and fully support and get behind what is best for the country. And you can see the momentum. I can see now what Rupert was up to. I could see from the very beginning anyway. If you create a movement and you say to people, let's weaponize the parliamentary apparatus to be able to use it to get our point of view across. Let's vote on policies. Let's become engaged. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do the other. What you end up in a situation with is a block of people who will become engaged, and they'll think, oh, you know what? And parliamentary processes are used to try and affect some sort of change. And then when you get to the point where you think, let's convert this to a party, you have a ready-made block of voters right there, which will only help expand your influence, expand your ambition, expand your goals. It was all carefully thought out and carefully planned from beginning to end. You can see it very clearly. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see it very clearly. And all this geezer wants to do, and the young team he's got around him, is fix the country at the end of the day. They don't get everything right, but in the main, they're heading in the right direction. And you already see other people, other parties, even the media's getting involved, trying to slate, slander, and destroy them. And it all just tells me how worried everybody is. People have a grand overall picture of what this country should look like. And that doesn't necessarily mean it will. Things have to be put right. And sometimes to put things right, you have to make some very, very, very harsh decisions very, very quickly. For too long, we've become a society where half measures are acceptable, where, half the job is acceptable, and you end up in a situation where things fall by the wayside. Now, what about our rights? They often talk about the European Convention of Human Rights. One of the biggest problems with that is if somebody rolls up on the shoreline, then under the ECHR, their rights and my rights are considered equal. So if they did something which warrants their removal, they probably won't be because of their rights, even if I befell to the actions of that individual. The whole thing is crazy. The whole thing is crazy. And I have said it again and again, what you have to look at is the actual rights we do have. If you look back in history, the Bill of Rights, the Act of Settlement, what those documents say, the Petition of Right, the Coronation Oath, the Petition of Reasons, the Charter of the Forest, various things that contain information. Again, I had this discussion with someone earlier, that were there to protect us from an awful lot of what's going on in the country today. We wonder why we're in the trouble we're in. I think one big thing is quite obvious from that clip I played. The people in power shouldn't be in power any longer. They need to go. They need to be out. And the people that replace them need to be constitutionally literate. They need to understand what's really going on. They need to understand what's required to fix the situation in this country. They need to understand the harsh decisions, the harsh measures that need to be done. Yes, it's going to be bloody painful. Yes, there's going to be consequences along the way. But do you want your country the way it should be, the way it should run? I was brought up in the 80s and a little bit of the 90s. And even then, I remember a very different world to what we've got now. You look what's happened, particularly over the last 30 years. The Rock goes back much further than that, but it's doable. You've got to have the appetite to be able to do it. Otherwise, forget it. And it's all well and good, all these little people shouting from the sidelines, saying things like FNAT. Makes you no better than the left. Look at what they do, calling people Islamophobic and racist and all the rest of it. It's pathetic. Meanwhile, we have a country that's failing. There is a movement there right now, with a young team behind them, with somebody that's got the bollocks to want to do something about it. It's got 100,000 members and growing. See where I'm coming from? Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share my stuff. I'll talk to you soon. Doodaloo.